This is Coach, and you're listening to the FilmSurvivor Podcast.
Hello, this is Tom Santilli. You were listening to the FilmSurvivor Podcast, which is a podcast that I don't do all that often, but usually when I do, I'm joined by who I am joined with today, Gordon Holmes of XfinityTV.com. He's one of the co-creators of the Survivor Hall of Fame. He's one of the best Survivor writers out there, does recaps and interviews every week, and of course does his power rankings. But I'm joined with him. Momentarily, we'll be talking about all things from the Hall of Fame, the Survivor Hall of Fame voting that just ended in December. We'll be talking about his thoughts on the Second Chance season that just wrapped up. And, of course, we will look ahead to Kaoh Rong season 32, which at the time of this taping, we've just seen the premiere episode. It's Monday right now, so the next episode of Survivor, episode 2, will be coming out on Wednesday. So again, I am Tom Santilli. You can follow me on Twitter at Tom Santilli. That's TomSantilli. I am the Survivor Examiner for Examiner.com. And I myself write a weekly preview that is posted every Wednesday, episode preview, followed by a full recap and an analysis, 2 separate articles following the show, late Wednesday nights. And then, of course, on Thursdays, I have my exclusive exit interviews each week with the voted out cast members. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Gordon Holmes. So Mr. Holmes, thank you again for joining me to speak Survivor.
Sure, always a pleasure.
Very cool, very cool. So a lot to get to, of course. We just had the premiere of season 32, hard to believe, of Survivor, Kaoh Rong. But before we get to that, and I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about it, but I wanted to ask you about some other Survivor stuff just that have been going on prior to this season real quick. First up is the Survivor Hall of Fame, which I know is become a fan favorite kind of a thing. Last fall, we had our last 3 inductees. Tell me who those were, or tell the listeners who those were if they don't know already, and what your thoughts were on the process this year.
Yeah, sure thing. We ended up with a class of Rudy Bosch, Coach Benjamin Wade, and Jerry Manthey. Of them, I had voted for Rudy and Jerry, so I was really happy about that. Coach is another one that is very, very popular with production. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he did really well with, Jeff Probst and John Kerhofer and the others. Also, popular with the fans, too. You can't get in without votes from both. So as far as the class goes, there's always going to be people who are going to be upset that their favorites didn't make it, but I was actually really happy with that threesome.
So, yeah, well, who was the other person that you had nominated that didn't make it this year?
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
Again,
yeah.
I want to say it was Rupert, because I'm more classic, iconic kind of people, and no matter what you feel about Rupert's game, you can't deny that, for a long period of Survivor history, he is the person most people think of when they think of Survivor. So I believe it was Rupert.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I had Rupert on mine this year, and that to me, I feel like, the Hall of Fame now has been around for, I don't mean to put you on the spot with that, but it's been, 4 or 5 years now? Something like that?
2010 was the first class.
Okay, so, it's starting to, I guess the first balloters were all unarguable kind of people, but now we're getting into where I think it's becoming a more interesting conversation now, because now there's more, fringe things, there's more arguments, for and against certain people. But Rupert, to me, seems like one of the egregious, missing, faces that are currently not in the hall.
Oh, come on, Tom. There's always been arguments.
That's true.
But yeah, I agree. Like, it's and maybe if you were to ask somebody like the age, like a lot of young people watch Survivor, so it's possible all they know about Rupert is this was the guy that volunteered to leave to go to Russian Island in Blood versus Water. This is the guy that didn't do a whole lot in Heroes versus Villains. So if they weren't around for the Pearl Islands heyday, then they might not understand why he was such an integral part of the show. So it's one of those things where, but then again, Rudy Bosch, like, he hasn't been on our TV since All Stars, and even then he was only out after 3 episodes. So I think Rupert's day will come. I think it's probably a combination of, I don't know if he's the most popular guy amongst members of the voting committee that have played the game before. He's somebody he will continue to have my vote until he gets brought on board.
Someone who may never get there, but I'm going to keep pushing for him every year, is Brian Haydick, dude. This guy, people who watched him play, I feel like he has to be in the argument for one of the better strategic winners, even though the guy was not liked at all. But I kind of keep hoping that he's like the Bernie Sanders. It starts as if other people are laughing about it, that it's not a real serious thing, and then here he is, on the verge of at least being taken seriously.
Yeah, Brian Heidick's one of those ones that I think you either love him or you hate him. And I guess I'm in that weird third category where I don't get it. I really, he played a good game, he won, but I actually rewatched his season not too long ago and just saw little, maybe they're nitpicks because, the guy won, so you can't fault him there, but just, I don't have the love for Heidick that some people have.
Yeah.
That's why we have a voting process. So, maybe someday, but, he's somebody I don't anticipate ever, coming back for, a returnee season, so I don't know if he's ever going to get that kind of boost.
Yeah.
But, that's why we vote, so you keep voting for him, and someday you can say,
well, yeah, I know there's rumor that Probst, on a personal level, doesn't like him very much, but for me personally, just so it can be stated publicly and get the Brian Heidick train moving a little bit forward, is the thing about him was, I think people forget that at the time that when Survivor first came on, there was a lot of talk about the lying and the moral, and people still talk about it, the moral element of Survivor, and lying and, cheating and stealing and that sort of thing. When Richard Hatch won and was kind of thought of as like a snake or whatever, it was kind of like people were like, well, okay, well, that happened, but nobody will ever let somebody like Richard win again. And so the fact that Brian was able to win with that kind of being the current pendulum swing, I feel like makes his win more important than other people, because it kind of proved that, if you're good within the game of Survivor, it doesn't really matter how you get there. It's just more about how you played.
No, I mean, I think there's always been the belief that the players will respect gameplay to that point. And back then it was different. Richard Hatch was a villain, but didn't really do that many villainous things.
Sure.
He was arrogant, but people were upset with him for creating an alliance, which used to be a dirty word. So, it's all in progression, and I could be wrong. I'm often wrong. Just check the win this season.
Right.
But I think Brian Heidick's a long shot. But that's why we have the voting process. So if you want to lead the charge, that's part of your responsibility as a member of the executive committee.
Exactly.
For the good of the Hall of Fame. So you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the Hall. So
there you go. I'll keep doing my due diligence on that. But yeah, moving past that too, in terms of last season, real quick, just a quick few thoughts on the second chance season. And in terms of the Hall, there's got to be members of last season who are kind of future Hall of Famers in waiting, you'd have to say.
Yeah, I mean, any winner, anybody who had such an amazing, dominating performance that Jeremy did, he's got to be, he's got to be a candidate. Stephen Fishbach is really popular with, the Rob Has a Podcast community. Joe is going to get a third chance and then a fourth chance, and then after that, a fifth chance. Same with Kelly Wentworth. So I don't know if anybody outside of Jeremy is going to make that leap by these performances alone, but I have a feeling that a lot of people from that season are going to get an opportunity to come back again.
And you'd got to think that with just this overall success of the season, really from the outset, that the idea of it was exciting, the execution of it was exciting, the people that made the cut, there was a lot of huge, everybody was talking about it, whether they agreed or disagreed with all the people. And then when it actually played out, a lot of people consider it to be one of the better, or one of the best seasons ever. You've got to think that this has got to be something that the producers won't just forget about. We probably will be seeing more of these kinds of things, wouldn't you think? Fan voting and all that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, I think if you put those same 20 people out there without a fan vote, you probably get the same result. I thought the fan vote was a really cool twist. I was really surprised with some of the names that were included. I was really worried, just as somebody who sees the results for the fan voting for the Super Hall of Fame, I was really concerned there was going to be a really strong recency bias, and your Jeff Varners didn't have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But it totally worked out that way. So as far as the vote, I don't know how much of a difference it made as far as the season, but I think it was a lot of fun. I think people enjoyed being involved. So if they feel like bringing that back, I would be all for it.
And then on a personal level, what were your overall thoughts of how the season played out and Jeremy winning and just how it shook out?
It was great. Like, it was just like a, it's one of those things where it's a pain in the rear end to power rank because, people are switching a line or, they're voting blocks, whatever you want to call it, every other week. So that part of it is difficult. But, Survivor's always at its best when you're surprised and, when things make sense. No one wants to see one tribe just get whomped out there. So, like, from a viewer standpoint, like, I thought it was a blast. I really enjoyed it. It raised some really interesting questions coming out of it, though, about the role of jurors and things along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
With accusations of jurors like the game doesn't end when you're voted out, which
right.
Maybe that will never change. And things like pre-game alliances. I think this was a really interesting look at just how little those matter.
Mm-hmm.
I think for All Stars, for heroes versus villains, people had an idea who was going out, didn't know for sure, and I'm sure people reached if they knew each other, were talking and things along those lines. But in this instance, you literally had people that had formed strong alliances before the season started. They ended up on tribes with those people, and they still fell apart. So I think this might put to rest the fear of pre-game alliances, ruining the season.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and I think that it goes to prove that no matter how smart these individual players think that they are in mastering the game of Survivor has a funny way of humbling people on minute one when they're out there. They can introduce a twist. They can do they're always going to be in control of the environment and the situation. And as we know, there is always a little bit of luck that plays into how you do out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you take someone like Shireen,
yeah,
who has a great mind for strategy. But her second time out there, she was on the tribe that you can talk about strategy too soon, and it came back to bite her. So it really is, Survivor's like a game of Yahtzee, man. You're rolling that dice, hoping for that 5, and you got a 1 in 6 chance, but that 5 might never come. So, it was just from top to bottom, great season, great cast. It was a lot of fun. 2 thumbs up.
Well, and as we know, the new season now, Survivor Kaoh Rong, season 32, actually, most people know this by now, but in case they don't, actually was filmed before the last season that we just saw, and it was in Cambodia again. Now, I know that you were in Cambodia for a couple days for the last season, the Second Chance season, which then would have been after the filming of this current season. When you were out there for those couple days as a member of the press, did you get any sense from the crew when you were out there, how horrible the conditions were? Because that's really all we've been hearing about this season is how rough it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who knows me knows that my skin has the consistency of tissue paper. I no joke, I have cut my hand washing a dish with a sponge before. So it was made very clear to us that if you get a cut, no matter how small, go to medical immediately, get it taken care of, just because the crew had been getting just a crazy amount of infections. So that's something we try to stay on top of. And I did, no joke, man, I leave Survivor looking like I got attacked with a Brillo pad.
But the delicate hands of a writer, though, you're blowing the minds of all of these people that are envisioning your big rugged, muscled body and all those kinds of things.
I need a heavier keyboard or something like that. Thumbtacks.
Finger weights. Yeah, there you go.
It was made very clear to us to be very careful because the conditions had been so rough on the cast of Kaoh Rong.
Yikes! Well, getting into that too, as we usually do, I was gonna get your impressions now based on the premiere episode of all the different castaways this year. But before I ask you that, I wanted to ask you just in general, because again, even with the preview at the live reunion show last May of this season, in December, that of this season, they foreshadowed the medical evacuations. They talked about how rough the environment is. Probst starts off the premiere by saying that it's the one of the hardest seasons of Survivor in history. Now we're clearly watching the show in a different way, or at least I feel like I am, like where I'm kind of wincing at the screen, waiting for something bad to happen. Do you think that it was a good idea on the part of the producers? Like, do you like that they were upfront with people about these things, or do you feel like it might have been better played out if they would have kept some of these medical evacs secret like they usually do?
It's like a horror film. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
Who's gonna go down? I think coming off of Second Chance, which was, seems to be a very popular season, they needed something to sell it on. Coming off of like, hey, we just brought back all these people you wanted here, and it was an amazing season, and it was crazy. Like selling it just as like, hey, you guys remember how much you like Brains, Beauty, and Brawn? Well, here it is again.
Sure.
I didn't have a problem with it. Maybe because I already knew about it. It didn't, it didn't bother me. But yeah, that's a selling point. Like part of the thing that kind of gets lost in Survivor is you're starving for 39 days, and you're being forced to go up against the elements and things along those lines. So maybe this will be a nice reminder that that the actual survival part of the game is a challenge. I feel like that's been lost lately. People just
Sure.
like 90% of the show is dedicated to strategy talk.
Sure. No, yeah, it's definitely, and I do like that too, and I think it kind of, again, it's focusing on different facets. We just had a heavy strategy season, so it is kind of, it's really tough out there, by the way, too. So I definitely see that angle of it. I'm just, like, the other thing, unless people are following spoiler sites and stuff like that, which I don't, you don't know how many are coming. Is it one really gruesome injury, or is it several, minor injuries? Is it people quitting? Is it people, being pulled from the game? And that's what kind of makes this one a little tense for me, because I'm watching it kind of not enjoying it, I feel like, off the gate, as I would have, because I'm kind of knowing that something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, and I hate a quit, and I hate a medical elimination, just because, if you love Survivor, and, a lot of people who do fantasize about playing it themselves, and I would much rather be voted out, blindsided, stabbed at the back by my best friend, than leave due to quitting or a medical evacuation.
For sure.
And even watching it, it kind of takes the wind out of your sails to see somebody not get that torch stuff. So, in a way, hopefully this does temper what you might expect and be like, we were told this is going to happen, so maybe it'll help with the flow of the season, if people start dropping.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay, well, yeah, that being said, and, that cloud kind of hanging over the season, what were your thoughts on the premiere app?
Oh, I really, for the first time in a long time, felt like I got a little bit of everybody.
Yeah.
Normally we'll do that first power rankings, and it'll be like, you've got, 8 people to say things about, and then 8 people that didn't do much of anything. So writing up, anything about them, you kind of put them in the middle and make a joke like, I didn't see much from this person. And the next would be like, what I said about the person before. But this time I think everybody talked. You have a rough idea where they stand with their tribe. So from that standpoint, I really, really enjoyed it. From the standpoint of I picked Alicia to win this season.
Oh, Gordon.
I know. My wife works Wednesday night, so I'm alone in my dark apartment watching screaming at the TV. And Scott is like, you're fine. Just be cool. And then it's like, wait, do you have an idol? She's like, maybe I do, and maybe I don't. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Hey, hold out hope. Look at the bright side. If she makes it all the way to the end and then starts speaking in like a British accent, this could be the greatest, scheming performance on Survivor history.
It's all a ruse. She truly is a mental giant.
Exactly.
Holy cow! That's why there needs to be more preseason press, because all I had to go off was her bio and her video, and I was like, okay, well, if the Brawn does well, she's not going to be a target at the merge. I kind of talked myself. At first, I was like, and I talked myself into it, and now I'm hating myself. I wish when I was writing my pregame picks, there was a cap on the pen.
That is hilarious. Yeah, well, sounds like you're backtracking on Alicia. Do you wanna publicly flip flop here and go with somebody different now that you've watched the first ep, or are you gonna stick with Alicia just on principle?
No, the way it's like I've been doing this since Gabon, and not once have I picked the winner. So why should I start now?
Well, at least you're picking people that won't get their hopes up. You know, that when they do lose and they blame it on you, they'll be more thankful that you put it on her this time.
Well, the new thing is Jeremy won, and I picked him to win San Juan del Sur. So maybe Alicia will win in the future.
That's true. You didn't. Yeah, when you picked Jeremy to win, you didn't specifically say which season he would win. We just all assumed. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So why don't you start wherever you'd like, and just kind of give me a brief thing. I totally agree with you, though. I like that this episode seemed balanced in terms of we got to know everybody a little bit. But yeah, start where you'd like, and just maybe give me a brief take on each person.
All right. So let's see. I don't have a list in front of me.
I can name them off too if you want.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So I got the Brains tribe in front of me here. So let's go through them. We got Aubrey.
Okay. Aubrey. She kind of had that classic Survivor meltdown and then kick ass in the challenge kind of redemption story. So feeling good about Aubrey. Like that was, I have a feeling that her and Peter might end up kind of being swing votes when that whole, if it's going to be, Debbie and Joe against Liz and Neil kind of feud going on.
Mm-hmm. And then you named the other ones there. Like Deb, it looks like is going to be that early boot, or the person who they slides through to the merge and then they keep around as some kind of a goat character. That's the early take on Deb. But what do you think?
I don't get it, man. I don't get why she's like, puzzles lay down for me like lovers, and she doesn't do the puzzle. And then she's like, oh, I'm great at starting fires. And then she's like, hey, Neil, go make the fire.
Right.
I don't get her game. She's obviously very capable in what she does, but it's pretty clear she doesn't have a good grasp on how people view her, which I think is extremely valuable in Survivor. And if they do stick with that young person alliance, I would assume she's the first to go.
Another person on the Brains tribe, I know that you, according to your preseason rankings at least, you were pretty high on Peter.
Yeah, Peter, and again, even during the episode when they're talking about the young person alliance, he's not the one making moves. He's the one being brought in, which right now it seems like a good place to be, especially when it seems like there's going to be this kind of division. He'll get to pick he'll probably be the swing vote coming up, and he'll get to choose which side to go forward with.
And then you got Joe, the oldest player this season. What are your thoughts on the former FBI agent?
I hate that guy. We're getting off being 72 years old and looking like that. That's a 39-year-old who it's infuriating. I haven't seen enough of his social game because, if he's obviously very fit. Neil made it seem like he's not very fast, though, which could come back to bite him. I'd like to see more of how he interacts with the other people before really making a call with him. But again, if it's going to be him and Deb against Neil and Liz, Debbie would probably go before him, so that might give him a chance to maneuver. And, with these three tribe seasons, they usually do some kind of swap around 14. So, yep. I think he'll be around for a little bit.
And then you mentioned him a couple times, but what are your overall take on both Neil and Liz?
Well, it seems like Liz is kind of taking a bit of a lead in the young person alliance, mm-hmm. which, if it swings in the opposite direction, could be a lot of problems for her. Whereas Neil, with his ice cream pants, which a little on the nose, but again, you wear what production tells you to wear.
Yes.
But it's also kind of interesting that on a Brains tribe to have an entrepreneur there.
Sure.
Where you like an ER doctor against a chemist and all this, so that's a bit of a more of a free spirited kind of job. But
yeah, sure.
I assume Liz would be a target before Neil will be, so he should be alright for a little bit.
And then we switch over to the Beauty tribe. The one that sticks out to everybody going into the episode was Caleb, or at least those of us that watch or follow Big Brother. What are your thoughts on Beast Mode Cowboy and how he looked episode 1, and what are his chances?
Well, that's the only season of Big Brother I've ever actually watched.
Really?
Watched beginning to end. I did a power rankings for that. And I could see how he rubs people the wrong way, but I kind of found him endearing. He's kind of got and I don't want to, like, this isn't meant to be insulting, but kind of like a lovable, I don't like, not like slow, but like just like, you know, he's like a fun, likable guy.
You're not going to try to kiss him, are you, like Ty did in the preview?
I might. I'm giving the opportunity. Don't put it past me.
Sure.
You know, it seems like like in the previews for this coming episode, that him and Ty formed some kind of a friendship. And again, like, you know, he had a relationship with Ariana Grande's brother in their season, so it doesn't seem like there's any.
Sure.
I think they kind of edited it to look like there was some kind of anger over that, but like it seems like they're kind of starting a little bromance. So like, yeah, like Caleb, like he kind of who am I thinking of from Caramon, who wanted to start the dog bar? Eddie Fox. Like, you know, he's just like a good, likable guy, and probably more physically, better physically than Eddie. So I could see him stick around for a while and then probably being a target after the merge. Sure.
What about the girls? Anna, Julia, Michelle. They all seem to bond in the first episode.
Yeah, you know, and good on Julia for recognizing Caleb. You know, for them to like put it like to remembering what he was like in his season and using that knowledge going forward. The three of them, like if they stick together, you know, they already have the numbers. It seems like they didn't show any real closeness between Nick and any of the other guys.
Right.
You didn't really see them like buddying up. So you know, it seems like the women can just, you know, decide who they want to bring along with them, and you know, they should be fine for a long time.
And then you mentioned Nick. Is he the sore thumb there for you, or where does he fit into the mix?
I guess maybe that comes down to how close Caleb and Ty get, just because, you know, Anna seemed really annoyed with Ty that he was out looking for idols. So, but like I was listening to the Know-It-Alls, Rob and Steven, but they had a good point where it's like it's almost like that's not a strategy; it's just what you do. If someone's looking for idols, they're a target.
Right.
Which is odd. Like, you know, if Tom, if you had an idol, I don't know if it'd be my first instinct to kick you out or to, you know, be buddies with you. So, like, you know, we haven't seen much from Nick at all, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's on the outs. But, you know, challenge strength is very important in a six-person tribe, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was the first to go, if, you know, Caleb and Ty were a unit and women worked with them.
And then looking over to the Braun tribe, we have the future winner of Kaoh Rong, Alicia, which you kind of talked about a little bit. We saw Darnell get sent home. And so give me your thoughts on, I guess we'll start with the big two there. Kyle, or as he's going on the show, Jason. Jason and Scott. What are your thoughts on those two guys?
You know, Jason is somebody who... Let me start with Scott.
Sure.
So, Scott really, like, you know, like, I'm the caveman and this and that. I don't buy it. I don't buy that for a second. The way he... Like, Alicia really should have picked up the clues he was giving her. Where he was like, let it happen. And then when she didn't just let it happen, he's like, I am trying to help you. Be cool. And she still wasn't... Like, he had some Zen Master stuff going on. And if Alicia was a stronger player, she would have picked up on it and relaxed. So Scott, you know, but obviously is always going to be a blindside target. Like, he's always... Like, he can't hide. We get past that, the merge, and so many of the early immunity challenges involve stand here and hold this. That's
right.
That's going to be trouble for somebody his size. Also, you know, getting that many calories for somebody as big as him is going to be tough. And I'm not sure, but just the way they're describing it, I'm assuming that they might be on the Angkor beach.
Okay.
You know, they described it as a dead beach, all the rocks and all that. So I'm not positive about that, but you know, this tribe might be in for serious hurting if that's the case. And Scott, Scott was like my big. My opinion of him changed a lot watching that episode. So
Okay.
I think he'll do, but I don't think he has what it takes to go the distance just based on his size. But I was really impressed. And Kyle or Jason or whatever, I'll call him whatever he wants. I don't want him to come into my house and snatch me because I'm going to take that.
Sure.
Also, like somebody who, you know, in the tribal, he was able to call out who he wanted to, and his alliance had his back. I guess the question is how strategic are Sydney and Jennifer? Like, are they ones that are going to try to make moves, or are they ones that are going to have their solid four and stick with it? I think Sydney is very bright. She, obviously she was close with Darnell, but instead of being like saying good things about Darnell at Tribal, she said negative things about Alicia, so as to not seem like she was, too close. The person who was going home, it didn't seem like she was too close to him. So, yeah, and Jennifer, man, what can you imagine? Like, I always figure I go out there and I don't do well when I'm hungry, so I'm going to be a pain in the ass. But like, if something's digging in my head, how that would drive. Like, I would not quit Survivor. They would have to wheel me out on a gurney. But like,
wow.
I'm like, dunk your head in the ocean, or I couldn't fathom that for a day. So.
Wow, yeah, that was absolutely insane to watch. And then, I mean, talk about, I know that's the moniker of Big Brother, to expect the unexpected, but I bet you that a bug crawling and burrowing into your eardrum was not something they read about in their medical preparation to go out on the show. I mean, that's just absolutely crazy.
32 seasons, so this is the first time anybody's ever had their brain devoured.
And then, as you mentioned too in your preseason power rank, which I thought was interesting, is in Jen's pre-interview, you picked up on the point that she said that she doesn't deal well with the weather, and you were kind of like, well, what are you doing out there then? And then here's a bug burrowing in her ear, and she just sat there and toughed it out. I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
I get the call to go out there, and I'm learning how to make fire. I'm sleeping in my backyard. I'm doing anything I can to at least get a feel for what I'm in for. And rain's gonna happen. Like, that's 39 days.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. So with Jen now too, she kind of burrowed into a situation on her own here too, where she kind of has burrowed her way into an alliance, it seems, with Jason and Scott. Is that a good place to be between those two?
Oh yeah, and if Jeremy told us anything last season, it's don't be the most attractive target on your team, because when you lose, like if you have the numbers and then for some reason someone flips or whatnot, you don't want to be that first target. Like, you don't want to be, when there's a surprise at Tribal that goes against you, you want it to happen to one of your alliance mates so you have time to scramble and do something else. So if for somehow people were to turn on Scott and Jason, like, she wouldn't be the first to go.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, now that we've kind of talked about the cast itself, and based on the premiere app here, I wanted to ask you too, just kind of a couple theoreticals here now. So, if let's say that before the merge, these tribes keep losing, who would you say of each of the three tribes, if you had to name two contestants who would be the least likely to make it to the merge, or the two most likely, who would you name out of each one of those tribes?
All right, we'll start off with the brains. I think Peter, he's good at challenges. He doesn't seem like he's going to cause any kind of trouble, any drama. I think he would be safe into a merge. I think the same thing about Neil. I think if it's going to go down with Debbie and Joe, and Liz and Neil, I think if it turns against Neil, he can kind of sit back and let Liz take the bullets on that one. And in the same vein, Liz is in trouble. I would imagine if the young alliance had stayed together, it's possible Aubrey might have bonded with Debbie when Debbie, took care of her when she was out of it. And if not, Debbie, it's a pretty clear choice to go home first. She's, whenever you're pegged as the annoying one, like, you never want to give someone a reason to make you first, and Debbie is giving them a lot of reasons.
Right.
As far as the Braun tribe, I think Jason. I like Jason a lot. He's likable. He seems like he's really, getting rid of Darnell was like getting rid of Alicia was easy because nobody likes. Getting rid of Darnell is smart. He's a threat. Like, he's a very likable guy. So I think if things go south in that tribe, he should be able to weather the storm. Same with Jennifer. There's no reason to target Jennifer. Like, she's not bothering anybody. She's fit. She's going to be safe. As far as who's in trouble, Alicia. I can't emphasize how much where it was just like, he's like, do you have an idol? And she was like, maybe. Oh, man, it's just like, take a hint. It's like he's trying to.
Yeah.
So Alicia I could be in trouble. And Scott is never going to be safe. no matter what he does. Scott is always going to be, even if his tribe has the numbers, he's going to be the biggest target on that tribe. He's never truly going to be safe. So,
right. Sure.
If anybody's going to get blindsided, it'll be Scott. For the Beauty tribe, Anna and Julia were really close. I made that minute one alliance, and sometimes like One World, those the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
So those two, I can see keeping it safe. Nick, again, didn't see him really buddying up or talk. Like the only time was when they saw Ty looking for the idol, and there was like 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
How can you, if you're the 5th person in a 6-person tribes alliance, that's never a great spot to be. And then Ty, if Beauty Tribe loses some challenges, strength-wise, Nick and Caleb just have it all over him.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of blew it when it came to having the trust of the people in the dominant alliance. So Ty could be in trouble. And then protecting chickens is noble, but come on, man, it's Survivor. You gotta.
Yeah.
If you've watched the show, you gotta know like some chickens are gonna die. It's unfortunate, but that's the way of the world.
It's the way the Survivor world works. So, absolutely. So, and now, of course, with all that being said, there are going to be some keyly timed injuries that probably end the dreams of a lot of these players, maybe more than one, possibly just one. But the only other real thing we know about this season that I would want to ask you about here lastly, I guess, is just Probst had kind of teased this idea of a super idol this season where, basically I think the thought pattern is that if you get an individual hidden idol, it's pretty much the same as it always has been, but there are 2 of them that you can now combine into a super idol, which allows you to do what? Have you heard about this?
Like Voltron.
Yes.
I have heard of it. I don't remember exactly what the superpower is. But I wonder if this is going to be a situation like the idols in season 31, where they were designed to look different, so that people might think that they were homemade idols.
Mm-hmm.
And that really never came into play. So it's possible. Tony had 2 idols at a time, and other people had 2 idols at a time, and so it could come into play. But part of the plan. We'll see what happens.
Well, Gordon, as always, I appreciate you joining me and talking Survivor. That was a good talk. Before we go, though, tell everybody about the power rankings and who's your competition this season.
Yeah, myself and Shireen Ascui are doing the power rankings together. Went back to one-on-one, a more pure power rankings. We met on a beach in Nicaragua, and she's been wanting to do the power rankings since then. So it took a while for her not to be cast in a season, so I'm excited to have her on board. Nobody knows this game quite like she does. So
a formidable opponent to put yourself up against there.
Indeed. Well, I got whooped up on by the Dirty 30 last time, so might as well keep that trend going.
And then, just lastly, as always, again, if you can, feel free to tell people how they can find you, how they can get involved in the power rankings, and what they can expect from you each week during the season.
Yeah, sure. We do, every Tuesday we have power rankings with myself and Shireen. Wednesday after the show, we have a full recap. Thursday morning, we have the full episode on Xfinity TV, and then we'll have an exit interview, usually Thursday morning as well, with the always popular word association. If you don't know how to find those, just follow me on Twitter. It's probably the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's at Gordon Holmes, GordonHolmes.
Well, cool, man. Again, best of luck to you the rest of the time. It looks like it should be a good season. I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I do appreciate your time, sir.
All right, thank you, Tom.
All right, take it easy, man.